find it a very helpful sutta because oftentimes people hear different pieces of the teachings of the Buddha, and some people might gravitate towards one piece or another piece, so might pick up that piece and kind of miss the overall progression and framework that the Buddha is talking about. So sometimes happens is people hear different pieces of this various tools or experiences or abilities one goes through on the way to ultimate freedom, and might feel overwhelmed or confused or not sure which way to go because the path looks different at different phases of it. At the beginning, it has a certain character, and in the middle, it looks a little different. At the end, it looks different. And so, appreciating the subtlety requires at least some sort of framework, some sort of understanding of which pieces lead to each other pieces, and where the whole progression is leading. So this one that I'm thinking of, it just describes, okay, each step, this is for the sake of that, that's for the sake of that, all the way till knowledge and vision and freedom. And so it's very helpful to have that internalized, memorized, so that when one gets to a certain stage, a lot of times one experiences something new in one's practice, and the question is where to go next? What's the next step? And so having that whole sequence very useful in those moments. Sort of making things seem to be changing, or the old tools that one's using don't seem to be working for some reason. Vajrayana Nikaya 11.1, chapter book of the 11th, first sutta. But it shows up in several places. Someone asked, what's the purpose of sila? Morality. What's the purpose of morality? Buddha says morality is for the sake of non-remorse, regret, not looking back, remembering, feeling bad. What's the purpose of non-remorse? He says the purpose of non-remorse is deep happiness. What's it? Is worth also noting that in various contexts and various suttas throughout the canon, there's a lot of different sources for pammoja. So in this case, he's highlighting sila, so highlighting morality. But in other circumstances, he'll talk about reflecting on the Buddha as a source of pammoja, reflecting on the Dhamma, reflecting on the Sangha, Bhikkhu Arya as a cause for pammoja, reflecting on acts of generosity, cause for pammoja, reflecting on having abandoned the five nivaranas, blocks or obstructions, hindrances. It's a cause for pammoja. Whatever the cause, it fundamentally has that quality. One's developing wholesome qualities. That's inspiration, devotion, feeling of hope and belief in with the Dhamma Sangha. An appreciation for how giving one makes one feel. Living a moral life makes one feel. Or just simply having just the absence of greed. The absence of hostility. Absence of agitation and worry. Absence of sluggishness, sleepiness, present. Absence of indecision. Yeah. And so whatever the cause, the more familiar one gets with the wholesome. Sometimes people have a whole lifetime of wholesome, of living a good life, of living a life of generosity. Abandoning greed and hostility. All that's for the cause of to develop this sort of deep sense of happiness, this well-being, this contentment, this good feeling inside. But without that, it's difficult. You don't have a basis. You don't have a point at which your awareness, your psyche can settle into and see things from the inside, see what's going on in the body, see what's going on in the feelings, see what's going on in the psyche, see what's going on in the body. And so that sense of deep happiness, whether it's, and in some sense, all of these are the same thing. The deep sense of happiness arising from the sense of living a moral life and not feeling any remorse. It's like a good feeling inside. And that good feeling only comes from, at the end of the day, doing good and not doing bad. Or being inspired by thinking about being other beings who have done good and not done bad. So the experience that people might feel when you see a dog being nice to a cat, some sort of genuine act of kindness. It's like just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's also sometimes good to think of morality as not just like, oh, I haven't done anything bad, which is good. That's good. That's not a bad thing. It's very good to not have done anything bad. But more as the sort of internal commitment to not doing anything bad. So that you have this sort of sense of internal clarity that even if the circumstances arise, even if the social pressure is driving me to that, even if I have to lose quite a lot at a personal level, but I'm committed to not kill any living beings, committed to not taking what's not committed to not having sexual misconduct, committed to refraining from lies, refraining from malicious or divisive speech. Committed to refraining from harsh or vulgar speech. Committed to refraining from idle chat. And committed to abandoning greed, hostility, and adopting right view. Seeing, believing that there's moral consequences to one's actions in the world, this world and this world and beyond. There's beings who have seen that themselves. And so the more one has that moral clarity, the more it gives one that sense of deep happiness. Like, oh yeah, I'm solid. I'm not doing anything harmful to other beings, but I internally have the clarity of like, No, even if the circumstances arise, even if I'm pressured to have something to lose from maintaining a moral standard, I'm committed to maintaining that standard. And there's a deep happiness, and like a strength, courage, feeling good that I'm committed to not harming. Mm. And that deep sense of happiness in one's life, one's practice, it gives rise to a sense of joy. People ask the Buddha, what's the purpose of the mojo? What's the purpose of this deep happiness? In the Buddha's teaching. He told them the purpose of this deep happiness is for joy. All the deep happiness is a sort of a more settled, contented state of well-being. The joy is more sometimes translated as ecstasy or rapture, bliss. It's these states of spiritual happiness and joy that the Buddha greatly encouraged as a means. Means to be able to go farther. Ask him, what's the purpose of this joy? The purpose of the joy is for passaddhi, relaxation, calm, silence. So once one's kind of firmly established in this wholesome happiness and joy, one can kind of move towards more. It's sort of this passaddhi is usually used in terms of the body. The body relaxes. But then when he's talking about it in terms as a bojjhanga, as a part of awakening, he talks about it in both senses. The mind calms and the body relaxes. So it develops a sense of joy. It's practice, a sense of deep happiness has arisen from a good moral life. And one can calm, start moving towards calm and relaxation. With the deep happiness means energy isn't being wasted in all of the nibbananas, the blocks of distraction. So it's there and turns into this reservoir of joy. And with that joy, because it's coming from a very calm and peaceful place, it turns into the body relaxes fairly naturally. asked him, what's the sake of this relaxation? He said the sake of the relaxation is sukha, is pleasure. Sukha is usually used in terms of vedana, feeling, right? Sensation. The mind feels joy, the body relaxes. A subtle feeling running throughout the body. It feels pleasurable. I asked him, what's the purpose of pleasure? The purpose of pleasure is for samadhi, concentration. Chitta, psyche, is a conscious mind, concentrate. He asked him, what's the purpose of concentration? Dispensation. He said concentration is for the sake of seeing things as they are. The knowledge and vision of things as they are. And that point is a bit of a shift. Because up until that point, from morality to non-remorse, to deep happiness, joy, relaxation, pleasure, and unification, are all sort of fundamentally in the realm of samatha, calming the mind, steadying the mind, balancing the mind, which culminates in samadhi, unification, concentration, psyche. With all the deeper mind, the intellectual mind. And so when one's gone through that process, so it has a progression. And it has all the steadiness, the unification, the wholesomeness, the abandoning of unwholesome states, to be able to see things as they are from a really balanced, calm, steady, unified, sharp standpoint. That's able to tune in to all of the experiences as they are. Other ones looking at the four satipatthanas, the body, the feelings, psyche, the dhammas, the qualities that our psyche has, phenomena, perceive. Once one has a sense of concentration and unification of the psyche, one can perceive those relatively easily. Even the progression through samatha is a progression through settling the mind enough to be able to perceive things as they're. So already in the process of developing this deep happiness and the joy that sets off relaxation, triggers in the body and the pleasure that's running through the sensations. Already one's tuning into what's going on. That's what the passaddhi is. It's where it's happening. And the sukha is happening at the level of sensation. The pamoja, the deep happiness, is happening at the level of the psyche. Developing awareness of the psyche. Qualities in its happening. And so seeing the impermanence of everything, seeing the changing nature of the body, the fragile nature of the body, the compounded and falling apart nature of the body, seeing the rising and passing away sensations, the subtle burning that's happening, seeing the qualities that the psyche is taking on at any given time, impermanence of it all. It's a subtle shift. So it needs to be a conscious shift, but it's not. One's already developed awareness of those things, and now it just needs to be a shift towards seeing them in a particular light, remembering the Four Noble Truths. Remembering their impermanence, remembering their painful, not self nature. And so, of course, they ask them, what's the purpose of knowledge and vision of things as they are? The purpose of not knowledge and vision things as they are is for the sake of the purpose of nibbida, of disenchantment, losing interest in those things. They're using the basis of the Satipatthanas, of the basis of 5 aggregates, 5 masses of body, feeling, recognition, 6 perception, persons. However one's breaking down the different phenomena that are happening, experiencing them as they are, seeing their impermanent nature, painful, not self nature. All of that's for the sake of losing. You're becoming disenchanted. You're losing your sense of infatuation with those things. There's a subtle but palpable release, like holding on to those. And similarly, just the experience that's, or perception, recognition that's preceding that release is your disenchantment. You're sort of losing your infatuation. You're not seeing them as you or yours or something to be fallen in love with. You start to see the world, as this thing that's falling apart. You see the material things as these things that are falling apart. We don't have much control over it. We spend so much time just chasing after, but they're not really ours. They're just material things have the nature to fall apart, change. see other people as people that are not at ours. They're not going to be with us forever. They're going to eventually. Start seeing sexual experiences, sounds, smells, tastes, touch. It's just having that quality of arising and passing away. More one chases after them, setting oneself up for disappointment and pain and conflict. And the same thing with one's feelings. These feelings just bounce all over go through various experiences and stages, and sometimes they feel good, and sometimes they feel bad. Sometimes they feel neutral, and they're constant in this constant state of change. Not really ours, they're just this flow of results. And similarly, one's recognitions, one's interpretations, or associations with the world, so the labels and understanding. Before it becomes a thought, the understandings we have about the world, how fleeting and changing they are, how they're not really ours. It's really worth getting infatuated by, or defending, or protecting. It's just associations, just recognitions. And the same thing with our attachments, our impulses, pulls towards different things in the world. Just old habits of becoming infatuated. They're not really us or ours either. Even the bare perception, base level, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, the percept, seeing, perceptive, smelling, hearing, perceptive, smelling, perceptive, tasting, perceptive, touching, perceptive, mind. Just the bare perception of those things. That too is just in constant change. That's not really us or ours. It's not really me or mine either. And so this state of seeing things as they are develops all this calm, awareness, joy, pleasure, relaxation, unification, to be able to see that nature of things as they're changing. The base awareness had already been developed in the process of samatha, but one's now directing at this impermanent sense, permanent, painful, not self nature of things, to develop this sense of disenchantment. Losing one's infatuation with things. And of course, they asked them, what's the sake of disenchantment? So, what's the purpose of disenchantment? Told them the purpose of disenchantment is viraga, it's fading away. This is dual meaning, fading away and fading away of infatuation. Base level is fading away. The intensification is subsiding. Things are passing away. Once you stop grabbing hold of the things, they naturally dissolve on their own. Doesn't have to do anything to them. They just naturally dissolve on their own. As we stop binding ourselves to them and creating them, and they dissolve. This is their nature. Sooner or later, once the fuel is run out, and they fade away. What's the purpose of fading away? Purpose of this fading away and transformation. The purpose of this fading away is what this knowledge and vision of freedom. And as the objects that have come into being pass away, and once seen that they're not worth holding on, they're not worth preserving or protecting, that the nature of everything in the realm of these five aggregates, in the realm of our material, sensory, compounded experience, whatever has the nature to come together and arise has the nature to fall apart. So there's once one sees that, one stops trying to hold things together. And move steadily towards the freedom that comes from not creating. And freedom that comes from release. And letting that process of creation come to an end. And that was really the purpose of the Buddha's teachings. And the main theme that runs all the way through it is that freedom that he was pointing at, realized, that he taught others to realize. It comes through release. It comes through a piece of external things, material things, sense experiences, other people, but also release of the internal things as well, the body, feelings, recognitions, the bare perception. It comes through releasing these things. So it starts with sort of abandoning the immoral actions that have this weighty karma. And the reward from that is that one just doesn't feel remorse anymore. It's the deep happiness and joy that comes from it. It keeps going and releasing the experience of this deep happiness and releasing this experience of deep joy, and we can move subtler and towards more relaxation. Settle into the pleasure of the feeling. And concentration, and goes further and can release even the pleasure, and becomes more subtler still. And see things as they are from a very calm, balanced, unified state. from that calm, balanced, unified state, one sees just these, say, four satipatthānas. You see this body in its true nature, aging, sickening, dying, doesn't get what it wants. It's composed of food and nutrients, and as soon as it doesn't get any more nutrients, it falls right apart. It has to be constantly recreated. So you see it in that nature, this thing that's constantly falling apart. In feelings, you see these subtle burning, arising and passing away as the same. And so you let that go as well. You see the constantly fleeting nature of perceptions, and as they're arising, you see that let them go as well. You see the constant tug and pull, attachments that are pulling one around, old fusions, bindings to things of the world, concepts of oneself. And you let those go. And even when one comes to just this bare perception, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, as they're arising, as they're coming together with the eye and forms, with the ear and sounds, and the smell, nose and smells, lung, taste, body, touch things, mind, qualities of mind, states of mind. And then sees them arising and passing. So it goes through as they're happening from this calm, unified state, just seeing things arising and passing at every stage, every aspect. Seeing object, perceptive seeing coming together as content, feeling that arises from seeing content. You see it arise and pass away, let it go. Hearing sounds, perceptive hearing, feeling that arises from perceptive hearing. Contact, feeling that arises from hearing contact. See it all arise and come together, let it go. And notice the smells. Perception of things, perception of smell. And feeling that arises from smelling contact. And you see it all coming together. Experience that arises from it, level of feeling or sensations. Let it go. And tongue, taste, perception of tasting, contact with things, right? And feeling that arises from that tongue contact. You see it all coming together. The body, touch things, percept of the body, the perception of the body, contact between the three, feeling that arises from body contact. See it all rising, passing away. Let it go. Mind, states of mind. Perception. Contact between the three. Feelings. This is from mind contact. You see it all rising. So in the process of disenchantment, not passing away, release. Sooner or later, it's the process of creation coming to an end. No new creations being generated. Then these momentary releases, consistencies of this wisdom of seeing things as they are, this deep understanding of things as they are. Eventually matures as knowledge and vision of freedom. That was the ultimate purpose that the book was building towards. It's all building towards that. Sila is for that, morality is for that, non-remorse is for that. The deep happiness is for that. Joy, relaxation, pleasure, unification, concentration. Seeing things as they are, disenchantment, fading away. It's all building towards this knowledge and vision of freedom. The quality that the Buddha was pointing at wasn't for a temporary compounded experience. It's pointing at something very different from that. It's the experience that comes from release of every compounded aspect of our experience. Every arising and passing away aspect of our experience. You rarely, but occasionally would speak about extinguishing. Occasionally you describe it as there is something that's not born, it's not become, it's not made, it's not compounded. If there were nothing that would not born, become, made, freedom wouldn't be possible. It's because there is something. The release from these compounded things is possible. So it's important to know that in the end of the path, on some level, we don't know what it means for this fire of existence to yet have that experience of what it means to have knowledge and vision and freedom. But we can move towards the wholesome, towards abandoning the coarsest forms of the unwholesome, seeing things as they are. And as we see things as they are, we're releasing these. And even if we don't know what it means for the fire to go out, we can experience what it means for that fire to get cooler, burn softer, and settle. Until eventually we will know what it means for to extinguish. It's a process, but it's very much a possibility for everyone willing to put forth considerable effort towards that goal. The more one moves in that direction, the more one gets a palpable sense of what it means to be free. It means to not burn this so much, this intensity. And what it means to begin releasing the things that we've bound ourselves to. Be bit by bit more free. Those pulls, those impulses that attachment leaves behind. Leave it there. If people have any questions or comments, feel free.
Also do the choose because this woman old lady from our temple community. She grow the food in her backyard and she asked me to come to pick up the food this morning. So I told her that I will see you and she asked me to bring the juice to offer to you. It's called this place. We have the napkin.
Oh.
This sutta that you started with, was Buddha talking to a monk or was he talking to a layperson?
I don't remember. I have to look it up.
Yeah, so was it, yeah. And the reason I asked that question is that it seems to start with being moral, all the virtues, the Shila that you should keep. But he doesn't talk about cultivating the wholesome aspect of it.
Like the sort of the deep. Well, I mean, on one level, sila is wholesome,
Yeah.
and the deep happiness is wholesome. PT is wholesome. Good is wholesome. Those are the. They're it's kind of two sides of the same coin. But maybe
True.
are you referring to something specific or else?
Well, I mean, you are talking about when you just said that. I think you meant Shila, which is which is a very expansive Shila than just not doing the wrong things. It kind of, I think it transforms into doing the good things also. It becomes part of Shila.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never specifically posed that question. That I can remember, like doing good things. I can't remember ever like any like instance where that's explicitly associated with sila. It's mostly not doing bad things. But that's why I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the talk, like the way the Buddha talks about sila, because in various times, like he'll say like the benefits of sila. One of the things that comes up sometimes is like you're confident among assemblies and you're die, die aware. I can't remember. You die in a good way. And so, at least for me, it was more useful to think of sila as like the commitment to not doing harm, as opposed to just, oh, I didn't happen to do it. Like it's a more active sense of like more than just, okay, well, I haven't stolen it.
Like, can you define a little bit about wholesome and unwholesome? What Buddha taught for the like people?
Yeah.
Please.
Very good. Favorite subject. So, unwholesome is killing living beings. Wholesome is abstaining from killing. Unwholesome is stealing. Wholesome is abstaining from stealing. Unwholesome is sexual misconduct. Unwholesome is abstaining from sexual misconduct. Unwholesome is speaking lies, deceit. Wholesome is abstaining from speaking. Unwholesome is speaking coarsely, vulgarly, or actually malicious speech, divisive speech, intentionally dividing people and speaking. And wholesome is abstaining from malicious speech. Unwholesome is coarse speech, vulgar speech. Wholesome is abstaining from coarse. Wholesome is idle chatter, speaking uselessly. Wholesome is abstaining from idle chatter. Unwholesome is greed, intentions of greed, like covetousness, trying to accumulate more and more, pursue, possess things of the world. And unwholesome is abstaining from greed. Unwholesome is hostility, intentions of hostility, of wishing. Unwholesome is abstaining from these things. Wholesome is right view, in the sense of this sort of mundane right view and super mundane right view. Kind of the one I described in the talk was mundane right view, but in a sort of transcendent sense, an even better sense of right view is understanding. Craving is, this is the painful aspects of the world that are inherent in birth and aging and death. And the root of that painful experience is our craving. So the abandoning of that craving is what leads us out of that cycle. And wholesome is, unwholesome is pursuing, say, wrong intention, which would be pursuing sensuality or sensual pleasures, pleasures of the senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, just five senses. And unwholesome is the wrong intent, or the wholesome is the abstaining from sensuality, not. Wholesome is, unwholesome is other types of wrong intention, of hostility or cruelty. Wholesome is abstaining from cruelty. Unwholesome is wrong action, wrong speech, covered before, wrong livelihood, sort of living all sorts of. As a monk, as renunciation came earlier, living eating the food of the faithful while doing all sorts of things that have nothing to do with spiritual growth. Wrong efforts scattered. Wholesome is right efforts to develop wholesome qualities. And wholesome is remember. You never define that specifically, but you're sort of ignoring all the impermanence. You're sort of seeing things through the mouth of seeing the impermanent as permanent, seeing the painful as pleasurable, seeing the not so, that which is not really mine as me. And there's a lot of and the wrong concentration is concentration that's rooted in impurities, not rooted in right view, not rooted in abandoning impurities. Right concentration is really based in abandoning sense pleasures, abandoning some state. And wholesome is, we've already gone through sensual desire and hostility, but agitation and worry. And wholesome is abandoning agitation. Wholesome is sluggishness and lethargy, sleepiness. Wholesome is abandoning those things. And wholesome is indecision, confusion, and doubt. And wholesome is the ability to see what's wholesome and what's not. And there's a lengthy list that I'm hesitant to go through, but of all of the different forms which the ego takes. So it can be things like anger and tension and possessiveness, defensiveness, deceitfulness, deceptiveness, and attaching very strongly to one's views and being unwilling to relinquish them. And just this bare sense of like attachment to self, and unwholesome is abandoning all those things. And so there's a reason why the Buddha defined these things in a sort of negative way. And he defined things in a positive way too. He's on occasion, he would say, kindness is wholesome, compassion is wholesome, like this happiness is wholesome, this observation of equanimity, impartiality is wholesome. But because the whole path is really based in this sense of letting things go, it was more the exception rather than the rule that he defined wholesome qualities in a positive sense, something you go out and do. Because the way towards freedom is more explicitly in this sense of letting go. And so you can create, like, do lots of acts of generosity, do lots of acts of kindness, lots of acts of compassion, and they are wholesome, but they're also creative. And so, and he would encourage, especially lay people to do acts of generosity, do acts of kindness, and how many benefits they have. But when he was talking about this path towards liberation, he would normally and more consistently speak about the things that you're giving up as fundamentally, like those are the wholesome that's like most directly towards